Welcome everyone, and thank you for joining me today. My name is Sarah, and I'm the Emerging Technologies Librarian here at Benedictine. Today, we're going to explore some free photo editing and screen capture tools. Alright, let's get started. As you may know, Adobe Photoshop and Lightroom are powerful photo editing programs, but they come with a cost. Fortunately, there are some free alternatives, one of which is Pixlr. Before we jump into the tool itself, let's look at a few examples of images created or enhanced using Pixlr. So as I scroll through, I see some images where this moon may have been placed on top of this image and the lighting enhanced. Again, there might have been some lighting enhancements here, perhaps some color enhancements. This may have an overlay over it that may darken it or desaturate some of the coloring. This one definitely looks desaturated. This might have an overlay of some little speckles here. This one might have an entirely different image placed inside of this mirror. And here's an example of a color splash technique where you see some color popping through while the rest of the image is in black and white. So that just kind of gives you an idea of the kind of edits you can make to photos using Pixlr. Pixlr is free, it does not require an account, and it's web-based, so there's nothing to install. To access Pixlr, you'll simply go to pixlr.com. On the Pixlr landing page, scroll down to see your two options. Pixlr Editor is for advanced editing with features that are comparable to Photoshop. Most of the techniques I'm going to show you today will be done using Pixlr Editor. However, I'm going to start in Pixlr Express, which is great for quick and easy edits. So I'm going to go ahead and launch Pixlr Express. The first technique I'm going to show you today is focal blurring. As you can see in this before and after, I applied a circular blur to draw attention to the conductor. I'm going to go back to Pixlr to show you how I did this. Okay, so here is the landing page for Pixlr Express. I'm going to browse for my photo because I already have it saved on my computer. Okay, so to add a circular blur to this photo, I'm going to go to the bottom and click Adjustment, Focal, and then I can drag this circle around the photograph. Notice how placing the focus in different areas changes the meaning of the image. Also, the blurred area can be a nice place for a logo or text. So I'm going to increase the blur to really emphasize this tool. You can adjust these circles. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and apply those changes. So as I said, you could add some text or a logo in the blurred area. To do that, I'll click Adjustment, Add Images, and I'm going to browse for my image. I already have a logo ready to go. I'm going to make it a bit smaller and drag it into place. Apply, and that's all. So I would encourage you to explore some of the adjustment options as well as the effects and overlays. It's similar to using Instagram filters but with more options. When you're finished, you'll click Save and you'll have an opportunity to save a copy on your computer. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and close that and head back to my PowerPoint. This next technique is probably my favorite, It's called Color Splash. As you can see, in each example, the photo is grayscale, except for one or a few pops of color to draw in the eye. In this example here, with so much going on in the photograph, you probably wouldn't even notice these people if there wasn't a technique like Color Splash applied to them. Here is my before and after, using an image that I imagine might be used for a nutrition event, for example. I'm going to go in and show you how this is done. So I'm back on the Pixlr.com landing page. I'll scroll down, and this time I'm going to open Pixlr Editor. I'm going to open an image from my computer and position it in place. I'm going to zoom out just a little. So the layout and features of Pixlr Editor are very similar to what you would find in Photoshop. You have your tools on the left, various options in the menu bar, and some panels along the right. For personal preference, I like to remove all the panels except layers. Okay. The first step for the color splash technique is to duplicate the layer. Now you can do this in two ways. You can right-click your layer and click Duplicate Layer, or you can go to Layer and click Duplicate Layer. Okay, so I have my top layer selected, so I'm ready to make this top layer grayscale. To do that, I'll go up to Adjustment, Desaturate to remove all of the color. I can turn that layer on and off with this check mark. And so you can see that I still have that color version underneath. Finally, I'll select the eraser tool. I'm going to increase the size in this case to 200. And now all I need to do is click to erase away the parts where I want color to shine through. So I'm using a larger brush to grab the main parts. And then I'm going to zoom in and switch to a smaller brush to get the edges. I won't do the whole apple now, but you can get the idea. All right, I'm going to go ahead and close this and head back to the PowerPoint. Another useful technique is color replace. In this example, I'd like to use this image to promote the library's audiobooks, but I'd prefer if the book were Benedictine red. So I went ahead and used the color replace tool to change it from blue to red. Okay, so I'm back in Pixlr Editor. I'm going to open the image from my computer. The first step is to select the red color I want to use. I can do this by clicking this color square on the left toolbar and selecting a red that I'd like to use. Another option I have to select a color is to use this eyedropper tool or color picker tool. The color picker tool allows you to select any color that's on the screen. So you can notice how this box is changing each time I select a different part of the screen. But I'm going to select the red in this bookmark. Next, I'll select the color replace tool, which looks like a little paintbrush with a small square of color. I'm going to increase my brush size to 400 or so, just because in this case the area that I want to cover is very large. I'm going to click and drag my mouse all over this book. Doesn't matter if I go over the lines, it's looking for any of that blue color, and each time it encounters a blue pixel, it's going to change it to red. So I still am holding my mouse down as I'm doing this. Okay. And it's as simple as that. Now this works best for solid color areas, but it can be done with more complex areas as well. Moving on, next we're going to remove a solid color background so it becomes transparent. Alright, so let's head in to Pixlr Editor once again. I'm going to open the image from my computer. I'm going to zoom out just a little. Okay. The first step is to unlock this layer. It has a little lock icon next to it. So if I were to leave it locked and choose the eraser, and let's see, bump this up. If I were to erase now, you'll notice everywhere I erase is just white. I'm going to undo that by pressing Ctrl Z on my keyboard. But if I unlock it, when I erase, I see the checkerboard pattern underneath, which means transparency. And that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking to create a transparent background. Next, I'll click the magic wand tool. Looks like a little sparkler. And I'll select the area that I'd like to remove. As you can see, it got a little too much of the white area because it went into the breadboard itself. Okay, so that means the tolerance isn't quite right. So I'm going to Control D to remove my selection. So if I were to increase the tolerance quite a bit and then click the white area, you'll see that it selects far too much of the image. But if I move the tolerance down to 0 and click the white area, it doesn't select quite enough. There's a white rim that runs along the edge. Through trial and error, I know that 19 is the best tolerance level for this particular image. So now it gets as much of the white space as I want. Now I press delete on my keyboard, and all I see is the checkerboard pattern, which indicates transparency. So now I would File, Save, and choose PNG because PNG supports that transparency in the background. Otherwise, if I were to save it as a JPEG, it would be a white background still. All right. I'm going to go ahead and close this. The next technique is the application of overlays. Apps like Instagram and tools like Pixlr Express, which we saw earlier, come loaded with preset filters or overlays. These overlays can make your photo look vintage or brighter or grainier or tinted a color and so forth. But in Pixlr Editor, like in Photoshop, you can create your own overlays using any image you want. In this example, I overlaid a business graphic on this photo of a training session to emphasize what I imagine is the subject matter of the session. Once again, I'll open the image from my computer. To remove some of the yellowness of this photograph, I'm going to go up to Adjustment, Color Balance, and increase the blue, and click OK. That way it makes it look a little bit brighter, a little bit crisper, gets rid of some of that yellowness that often happens. Now to add the overlay, I want to add that as it's a layer of its own. To do that, I'll click Layer, Open Image as Layer. I already have my layer ready to go, and here it is. Now I can move this around, but as you can see, it doesn't have any tools for me to make it larger. To get those tools, you'll go to Edit, Free Transform, and now as I hold Shift, I'm going to drag to get this to fit the whole screen. There we go. Now I'll click this menu icon in the lower left corner of the Layers panel. This will give you some additional options that often come in handy, like the opacity. But today we're going to use Mode. So we're going to select Mode Overlay. This is still a little too blue for me, so I'm going to go up to Adjustment, Hue Saturation, and decrease the saturation of the overlay layer. By desaturating it, I'm removing some of the color from that very blue overlay. And that's how you create an overlay effect. I found this business graphic on pixabay.com. Pixabay is a website that provides public domain images. That means you are free to use these images without citing the original creator. As I mentioned, you can use any image as an overlay, but often textures work nicely. A search in Pixabay for the word texture or watercolor background, for example, can yield some good options. Our final technique is actually two: spot healing and gradients. Here is my before and after. I applied a white gradient and corrected a few imperfections that you probably can't notice when the photo is this small. I'll open this photo. I'm gonna zoom out a little bit. Once again, I'm going to take away some of the yellowness in this photo. I'm going to go up to Adjustment, Color Balance, and increase the blue. Okay, that looks about right to me. Next, I'm going to remove a blue spot that is sitting on her hair. It's probably from a, something on the lens or some sort of glare. So let's go ahead and zoom in quite a bit. Okay, so I'm not sure if you can see this, but there's a little royal blue dot on her hair right here. So often you'll have a small imperfection that you just want to get rid of. So to do that, you can go to this little band-aid symbol here. That's the spot heal tool. Click that, hover over the area, and click. And it gets rid of it. It's using the pixels from around that circle to cover that spot. So right here we have this little white spot, and I can do the same thing here and it gets rid of that spot. You can use this same spot healer to get rid of larger areas as well. So let's see if I scroll down. So for example, I could remove this logo. Not that I would necessarily want to do that, but I could. So if I drag over this and let go, it disappears. Do the 40 as well, and there it goes. Next, I'm going to apply a gradient to this image. To do this, I first want to create a new layer. To create a new layer, you can click this paper icon at the bottom next to the trash can. You could also go up to Layer and choose New Layer. I have my new layer selected, so I'll choose the Gradient tool in my toolbar, click the gradient at the top, and I'm going to choose one of these preset gradients. I'm going to choose the one that's white to transparent. Okay, so to apply your gradient, you're going to click and drag as far as you want the gradient to reach and let go. You can apply it more than once to add a stronger gradient on there. Okay, so now within this gradient area, I could, if I wanted to, add some text or a logo. So I'm going to add a logo. So to do that, I'm going to go to Layer, Open Image as a layer, and add a logo. So as we discussed before, I can move this image around, but I don't have those tools to be able to make this graphic smaller. So to get those tools, I'll go to Edit, Free Transform, And now I can hold Shift and drag down, and I can place it in the corner of my image. Each of these is on its own layer, so I can turn them on and off to compare the options. So perhaps I wonder if I really need the gradient. I can turn that off. Yes, I see I do need something there because the logo blends too much into the background. So I'll turn that back on. Or perhaps I decide I want to try a different color gradient, or I would like to try a blur. I can try all those different options on different layers, turn them on and off to compare. When I'm ready to save, I'll go to File, Save. I have a few different format options. JPEG is good for most photos. PNG is good if you have transparency in your photograph. And PXD is an important one for editing. Save as a PXD if you plan to continue editing your photo in Pixlr in the future. PXD files only open in Pixlr. And again, here's a summary of those saving options. Note that Pixlr automatically compresses your images to 72 dpi. Pixlr also has a mobile app for Android and Apple devices. This video shows me using the app. My experience with it has been very positive. You can brighten your photos by moving your finger over areas you want to brighten, which I'm going to demonstrate now. I bumped up the intensity in this example so you could really see, hopefully, how it's brightening the building, the mountains, and the sky in the background. You can also apply a circular blur very efficiently in the app, and we'll see that in a moment. Here I am trying out a filter. And here is where I'm putting that circular blur on the image. In the before and after example, in this slide on the left, I took this photo with my phone, I opened it in the Pixlr app, I brightened it, added a circular blur, and posted it on the library's Instagram page. It's a pretty nice app if you're looking for something to enhance your photographs before posting them on social media or elsewhere. The last tool I'd like to share with you today is Jing. Jing is a free screen capture tool by TechSmith, the same company that provides Camtasia and Snagit. Once you install Jing, it sits at the top or side of your screen. In this case, it's sitting on the side of my screen right here. If I hover over it, it expands. I can also drag it and place it on the other side of my screen if I wanted to. So to take a screenshot, I'd hover over this little sun icon and choose Capture. Now I can select a portion of my screen, choose Capture Image, and now I can annotate this image. I can choose to add an arrow. I can change the color of that arrow. I can add a frame, change that to blue. I can highlight, and again, there are additional colors for highlighting as well. And I can add text. And you can change the color of the text, adjust the size, and there are quite a few font options as well. Once you've finished editing your screenshot, you can save it to your computer. With Jing, you can also record your screen for up to 5 minutes. So instead of choosing Capture Image, you'll choose Capture Video. However, there are no editing tools for videos, so what you record is what you get. But often that can be enough if you're just trying to demonstrate something for someone quickly. I used to use a different program for screenshots, but I recently converted to Jing and haven't looked back. And that's all the tools we'll be covering today. Thank you for tuning into the library's workshop. If you have questions about anything I discussed today, please feel free to contact me.